Right, fantastic. All right. So this is a really cool one. Thank you everyone for voting, for those of you that voted for today's class. It was, I know there was a lot of interest in the pelvic floor and voice, and to me that's the connection between all the diaphragms, and there's no way that we can speak about pelvic floor and um, the different diaphragms without really addressing that deep front line. So we're going to kind of start there and we kind of build from there. So we're going to go a little bit into the scope of today's class. We're going to be getting into a little bit a deeper understanding of who we are and how we are as a technology, not just from a somatic perspective, but also there's a lot of quantum elements in today's class. So I designed the class keeping in mind to try and tick all of the boxes, even though you all voted for this topic. So there are a little bit of different elements here today. And really kind of diving deeper into understanding our relationship to co-creation. So from an internal space, from an internal understanding of our technology, how this projects itself externally into our lives. So it's there's so much connection when we're speaking pelvic floor. Everyone here, you may or may not know, but for those of you that have attended my pelvic floor trainings, I call it the creative quantum computer because it's really that place. If you think of the human body as a technology, that is where that the birthing of life, and that's where that part of us lives somatically. And so we're talking about like really profound technology, and then we're speaking about voice today. And this is it's in scripture. You see it in different kind of belief systems where what you speak, you create. This is why we have all these affirmations. These words have value. So the vibrational tone, the voice that erupts from us, the sound that comes through, like it has such potent power, and that's why they call it casting spells. Or like in the Bible you have that the be careful of what you say because it has the power of life and death. So there's this enormous recognition that our voice carries power into the world. And so again, we're just kind of planting these seeds here today, and starting to understand, how does this all link in together when we are one dysregulated or have unresolved trauma, and when we are more regulated and we're really entering the space of optimization, and then the power that can come through that. And we're going to speak about our authentic expression as a result of this. It's a really cool class. I'm very excited to be here. One of the biggest things that I have been fascinated by when it comes to anatomy is the deep front line of fascia. It's a really profound line of information. It's something that the first time I saw the dissection of the anatomy of that deep front line, I was hypnotized. I was like, whoa. I was never taught this in school. This is really profound. And I started to play because with it somatically when I'm practicing TVM, before I developed, the different protocols that really just work specifically with this line of fascia, this line of information. Because you're thinking a line of information or fascia from an anatomical standpoint that it's in your feet, travels through your pelvic floor, is your psoas, right? Comes in to become your diaphragm, is in, um, a very big anatomical structure that stabilizes your heart, and then comes into your throat and your tongue. And we're like, wow, this is so much happening from your structure, from the way your heart rate, your heartbeat, when you're thinking about even like switching between states of regulation, dysregulation, releasing oxytocin, breathe, the shift of breathing, all of these shifts. When we're saying, what circuitry are you traveling through? You're literally, when you travel and you travel the cascade, you are engaging the deep front line. That is what is responding to your body. Threat, relaxation, rest and digest, connection. And so it's so profound. And what I found in this line of fascia and my own personal research is that we store so much subconscious information. There are a lot of generational stuff, a lot of childhood stuff can get stuck there, and it's kind of like it's this memory bank in its own right, and it's something that is super profound. Thank you for sharing. Um, the picture there. Yes, you can that's amazing. Thank you. So what we're learning here is that the body is not just a vessel, right? It is a frequency tuned instrument of consciousness. So this is where I'm wanting you to kind of like dive into your own personal understanding that there is so much happening in the biology. There's so much happening from this deep line of information that relates to the field around us, and understanding that there's this interaction that is happening between us somatically. Like this line impacts how you stand, how you sit, your pelvic tilts, how you breathe, how your heart beats, how you sound like, what you sound like. If you feel safe in the world, stable in the world, the way you move. So we're seeing that there's so many somatic implications to just coming into the anatomy of this deep front line. And so even right now, we can just kind of explore, relaxing your jaw and sticking out your tongue if you want, and see, can you feel it? Can you feel how your breath can change just with your tongue stuck out, and how that can influence the way you're breathing, the way you're feeling? And let's do this together right now. So you can stick out your tongue and just take a deep breath and notice, does it feel the same? Does your breath feel the same? Can you feel when you stick out your tongue a stretch in your diaphragm? Can you feel the difference in your pelvic floor? These are your own internal cues when we're speaking about becoming deeper in our own embodiment. It's learning these subtle shifts. And so we're also starting to understand that this deep front line has very core structural and energetic uh, qualities that are that connect and directly translate to the integrity of our soma, of our body. Okay, so if there is a contraction there, there's something going on. It's directly impacting the integrity of the entire structure. So your voice, your breath, your emotions, even your organs, the way they sit, because these diaphragms literally are designed to move. So when there's things happening in your organs, even we're talking about the memory bank of the organs, a charge moving through, it can release that charge if there's space for it. But if there's contraction in your diaphragms, so your pelvic diaphragm, what is holding basically um, all the organs for you in place, and your other diaphragm, there's contraction there, you're going to have issues with your organs. You're going to have issues potentially with digestion, all sorts of things are not moving the way that they're meant to be moving. So, and again, we also know that there's in the introspecting that is happening in our body when our posture changes as a result, it's communicating information to our central nervous system around our state of being. So when we start to understand also, and I'm inviting you to expand your understanding that the diaphragm is also in your heart. So your heart space is also a diaphragm. So it's not just your diaphragm that you have and your pelvic floor diaphragm and the diaphragm that you have in your throat, the diaphragm that you have in your feet, but also to start to explore that the heart itself is also, it has this capacity, this beautiful capacity to expand, to move, to change. um, and to use it and view it from a lens of perception that it is a diaphragm as well. And then from here, I'm inviting you to, like everything we do with this body of work, understanding that there is a physical quality to the structure, that it's creating a functional um, quality to it, but also it has an emotional and energetic quality. So again, starting to understand that these different parts of our technology serve us from an emotional perspective differently. And so there's energetics and emotions as well, not just the structural qualities that they bring. Um, and so this is just a little bit of an intro into understanding the connection between that deep front line of fascia and the different diaphragms and then the connection. And we're going to start pulling this together right now. So we know that we have, as a species, been using our own voices to calm our nervous system. This is why we have practices, and you see this across cultures. We have practices like humming, chanting, um, singing, and it's playing with the tunement of our voice because there's several ramifications for that. One of the ramifications is that it influences people's nervous system around us. It also tunes our and engages our vagus nerve. So when the vagus nerve is engaged, it has this quality of turning on that parasympathetic response within us. And this is why you would see in nature and without prompting, um, that if an animal is injured, they may start to whimper, they may start to create a specific sound that is designed to help reduce pain. Anyone here experience this? If you've experienced intense pain in your body, has anyone here, um, you may have just started to create different noises and sounds? Okay, yeah, so everyone's saying yeah. So you intuitively know that when you create sound, you're not just influencing your vagus nerve, but you're also connecting or turning on from this diaphragm, that deep line, connecting it, tuning it. Think about tuning. You're tuning your heart, you're tuning your breathing, you're tuning all the entire deep front line. So all of these different diaphragms. And it's so interesting because you may notice that every time you experience pain, you are not necessarily, and you go into creating a sound, it's not necessarily the same one. You may notice that you even in the same moment play with the frequency, like you're kind of like, this sound doesn't, it's not the right one. And then until you nail it and you're like, "Oh, that's the one," then you do it, you may go into it and you repeat it over and over and over again. What you're doing is you're literally fine tuning through frequency and adjusting and creating more coherence and resonance within your own system. Okay. So this is something that is instinctual. Animals do it, humans do it. When we see a person needing comfort, a lot of parents will start to sing to their children. Um, we create noise and vibration because the sound, this is the most beautiful part, the sound itself expands beyond, transcends. You don't need to think about the right words to say, you don't need to know what to do to make a person feel better, but if you go into the correct frequency or sound vibration, you can have that, you can deliver that without needing to know what to do or what to say. You enter the frequency and boom, you're getting the results. Okay. So this is where we're starting to see that this is a universal language. This is a universal language that expands, and it's not something that is necessarily taught to us through reason and logic. It's deeper. It's deeper. And it corresponds to that deep front line. It's this very ancient wisdom within us. So we also see that our voice is a direct reflection of where we are in our states. This is why we see you cannot fake safety in a voice tone. This is why you can hear it when a person's afraid, especially when you're thinking about you addressing children, you're working with individuals, like even in your sessions when you're working with people somatically and they're starting to hit up against, that big charge on the table, and if you ask them how they're doing, you may hear it in their voice that, oh, they're not okay. And so you cannot fake safety through your sound. So sound is so primal. It's this very, very primal space internally within us. Um, And also to understand that this is the coolest thing. Your fascia literally responds to frequency. So we have that when we start to understand, and again, going back to that fascia masterclass, that it is this beautiful liquid crystalline structure that is interactive. right? And it's a memory bank. So it's interpreting information in the field around it and it's responding, it's changing to it. This is why you notice that if you are in an environment where it's hostile, you may feel your body tensing up. If you're in an environment that is loving and kind, you may feel yourself dropping in and softening up. Your fascia is literally interacting and creating its own story and um, memories around these interactions. And so we start to see also, because of the nature of fascia that is crystalline, it's liquid crystalline, that it is very much um, interactive to vibrations. It changes a structure according to vibration. And so there's this entire like body work somatics where we see that um, because of the liquid nature of fascia, that fascia changes structure according to the vibrational tones around it. And vibrational tones are eh, are transferred through sound. So we're starting to see here that there's a link happening between fascia and voice and sound. So we're going to jump in really quickly from a quantum perspective that we know that all matter is vibrating energy. And according to string theory and quantum field theory, everything is vibrating, including you. So you are all vibrational beings, okay? And when we start to understand that sound is the vibrational imprint on matter, and the scientific proof to this is cymatics. Um, and if someone wants to pop in the chat, just like an example of what I mean by cymatics, so you can kind of see that we can expand the same principles that this is happening on fascia in your body. So again, we're connecting that the body literally can change structure, the fascia can change structure based on the vibrational relationship to sounds around it. And this is why, again, from a psychological standpoint, we naturally respond in a favorable manner to a certain frequency or sounds, and we may all respond in an unfavorable manner to a different kind of sound. So maybe in your own personal life, you know, like, oh, this person doesn't sound right, doesn't sound, I don't like their voice. When I hear their voice, I feel my body contracting. You're actually feeling the response of your fascia to the vibrational tone of their voice. And you will notice this. And here's something that I really want you all to dive into personally, is the understanding that individuals who are hurting, who are have a lot of issues that are not um, unresolved, so unresolved trauma, dysregulation in their nervous system, we can pick up on it, and we hear it in their voice, and it doesn't sound good. And who here, just out of that little bit, who here is able to identify or see that certain individuals who are, you can pick up on it, that they're not being authentic when they're speaking? You're like, yeah, no, I don't believe what you're saying, because it doesn't sound like it's coming from a place within you that feels truthful, or it's not your truth, or you're too contracted, or like I'm picking up that you're hurting. Like, we can literally pick up on a person who's coming from a space of sincerity within themselves. We can hear it in their voice. It's basically the vibrational tone coming in, and we're picking up on it from our nervous system. There's a response that is happening in our nervous system. Who here is able to recognize that? Right. Okay. So this is the coolest part for the folks that are interested in launching their programs and you're wanting to expand and things like that. Enter a space of regulation and notice that your voice when you speak sounds very different. And when you're wanting to create for instance, sales and marketing, if you come from a space of authenticity within yourself and truth, you can influence a person into believing you and trusting you, and it's way more successful than if you're coming in from a space of inauthenticity that's forceful. People can pick up on it. These are just like little things that really kind of, they feel it. And this is where we're coming into the feeling of the transfer of information. We're coming into the feeling, less in the head and more into the feeling. And this is how, again, the voice is so powerful. I'm going to be sharing here some research for you to look up and dive deeper if you want to around how voice. Okay, here we go. This is different research, bodies of work that you can look into and expand if you're wanting to learn more about this. Um, so we're understanding also that like your authentic voice is directly linked to the way you're breathing, to the way your heart is beating, to how much if you're contracted in your pelvic floor or not. And this is why also when we look at it from a cultural perspective, we can call some people like, oh, I don't like that person, that person's voice, for instance, just it does something to me. They sound like such a tight ass, right? So where is that coming from? It's like we are able to intuitively pick up that there is a contraction happening in their pelvic floor, that there's something happening, and then we're picking up on it through their tone of their voice. And so we're again we're linking in the information that we have intuitively as a species. We know a lot. We know so much as a species. We can pick up on it. The other side of this is that who here has experienced gone to have some pelvic floor work done, had a TVM maybe pelvic floor session, or has engaged with their own pelvic floor in a pleasurable manner? And did you notice that there was a shift in your voice? So everyone's I see all the heads nodding, yes. Okay, so we can hear. So what happens when that pelvic floor releases, right? It's not so tight. The voice changes. And this is for those of you, this is really interesting in psychology. There's this whole element around seduction and what does seduction mean in psychology. And one of the things that is studied in psychology around seduction is tone of voice and how much there's command or penetrating type authority to it, and how much of it is welcoming and engaging. And they could find the direct connection. And from a psychological standpoint, there's a sub um, subliminal type messaging that happens, a subconscious tuning or knowing when a person has a very relaxed and welcoming open pelvic floor through their voice, and they're like, oh, that voice sounds seductive because it's again directly connected. And these are things that we are learning, that there is a connection, we can pick up on it. Okay. And so there's and there and we'll go deeper into the quantum ramifications of this. So when you start to understand that your voice, the sound that comes through, is literally a blueprint of your frequency and it shapes your field, the field is interacting with you based on that. So when we're starting to see now that voice shapes fascia, right? Sound, vibration shapes fascia. We are responding to vibrations. If there's contractionary deep front line, which is basically subconscious, there's a lot of subconscious generational. I found so many generational blueprints there. I found traumas, subconscious traumas, childhood things, and they because it's such a long and big this line of fascia, this line highway of information is connected to how we respond, how we breathe, how we feel. And if it's storing such information that is subconscious, is not even coming into our cognition, again, remembering this body of work, we're speaking about the different body uh, and banks of information in our bodies, is not just cognition. So, what stories are being stored in these parts of our body that we are repeating patterns? We are making decisions. It's influencing our thoughts. We all know through the introspecting, right? Everybody remember your education, your body's scanning itself constantly. And if you are in a posture or there's a contraction, or you are becoming more dominant in say a sympathetic um, circuitry, or becoming more dominant in your dorsal, it's impacting how you're breathing, right? Everybody, it's impacting how you're breathing. It's impacting how your heart is, your rate, and is beating, your resonance. It's how you can, your voice changes. I remember I had a pelvic floor training, and one of the participants said, when I left, when my pelvic floor released, I was able to say no for the first time in my life. I could say no. And so there was this opening that started to happen. It wasn't just a physical shift, there was an emotional shift to it. There was courage, there was strength, there was change that started to take place. And so again, we're starting to see now the links and there's this interconnectedness and ramifications to all of this stuff, these different elements within us. And so again, when individuals are potentially traumatized, right? They don't speak their truth, or they may say yes when they mean no. So there's confusion, or let's look at it from a different perspective, a lack of coherence, right? We can call it a lack of coherence. So there's a lack of coherence that corresponds directly to any contractions that we have in this deep front line, creating an incoherent or an incorrect or a non-optimized thought pattern, emotional pattern, behavioral patterns, right? These are the layers of compensation. And then when the body's doing its introspecting, it's corresponding to that. And so then it's saying, oh, so it's starting to feed into itself, into this loop, right? And to understand that there's a relationship not only within ourselves, but there's a relationship that happens outside of ourselves. So also to understand when there is coherence within our own sound, when we're able to reach spaces of coherence within our sound, we're able to achieve coherence with our field. Okay? Again, remembering that fine tuning sound when we are in pain, we know that one of the things that we can resolve to bring coherence into our system is sounding. And in that sounding, we're creating internal coherence. That sounding also impacts the structure of our fascia. And our fascia also is interacting with the environment. So it's not just information coming in, getting stored into our body and our fascia, but our fascia also communicating this vibrationally into the field around us. There's this interaction that is happening independent from the unified eye, independent from our own cognition. And so it has a relationship to the field around it. And this is something that is really interesting. And I wonder, I'm curious, because this is something that I've been personally working with. Um, I went into this entire space within myself wondering, how would my life look like? How different would my life look like had my parents truly loved each other and stayed together? And how that would have shaped me personally. And and specifically, I'm speaking about generational information or subconscious information and patterns that would be stored according to what I've seen in this line of fascia. How different would my thoughts be? How different would my behavioral patterns be? How different would my emotional patterns be had I had a different input in that deep front line? How safe would I feel in the world? How different would things be if I did not have a contraction or unresolved issues due to the way that the exposure I experienced as a child? So again, when we're speaking about generational things, we know that they're inherited, right? We know that we get them in our mitochondria and our cells. Um, we have a uh, we also know that it's in our fascia, in our organs, and so understanding that it's very, very, very interesting, the ramifications that this has. So we want to go a little bit into somatics. Has anyone here posted a picture of what I mean by that? Somatics. It's the vibrational shifts in liquid structure. You've all seen the crystal shifts with the different um, on water. If someone can post a picture so you can just kind of have a look at that. So what science has shown us that we're able to measure the frequency or the vibration of emotions, and they're measured in hertz. So we're able to find what the frequency is. Different emotional states hold different kind of um, frequencies, and so again, knowing that your voice can be a tuning tool within your own system to regulate it is huge because you can change the frequency of yourself and change the way your fascia is and your field coherence. And for those of you that are interested, there's a whole bunch of frequency. I know uh, Porges's work around regulating the nervous system is all through sound, and he works specifically with different frequencies in the ear. Just understanding that, yes, thank you, whoever posted that, thank you, Jess, thank you. So again, it creates coherence. So again, when we're starting to think about when we see structures that are coherent and have um, symmetry to them, we deem them beautiful. So in our own psychology, when we see a structure that is this is why we call it sacred geometry, right? When we see these structures and they create a sensation within our body. They create a visceral anatomical response, an emotional response when we see coherent, and we call the structures and we call them beautiful. Okay, so there's again this internal primal inherent knowing within ourselves that when that coherence and organization to the structure feels good. We like it. So beautiful is, i.e., I like it. Also, another thing that's really important for you to understand, us as a species, we're one of the only species that has enough awareness and appreciation for beauty. Look at all the museums, the art that we collect, and the amount of money people spend on it. But we also have an inherent desire, one of the only species to actually protect beauty. So we literally will go fight to protect beauty. We're like, no, this is important. So when you start to think about yourself again as this beautiful technology and all of the parts of us, like what is pattern repeating itself through scale. So there's already, from a psychological perspective, not only do we appreciate it when there is coherence, and again, everybody, coherence is symmetry. Coherence means regulation. Coherence means beauty. Coherence means that our fascia is doing what it's meant to. The crystallines that are inside of us look beautiful. The thoughts that we have are beautiful, they're coherent. The emotions that we're processing are coherent. Not only do we want it and we appreciate its beauty, so even if you cannot see what's happening inside of you, you can feel it, right? This is why people who are regulated, when you go, for instance, to people who meditate and they're in communion with God and the universe, and you're like, wow, it's so peaceful to be around here. Look at the structures and the way that they live life. It could be very minimalist, very much in tune with nature, clean, organized. You're like, I love this. This feels good. This feels good. You are seeing a magnified or an expanded version of what is actually internally happening within your system. So again, in psychology, when we know that, for instance, a person lives in disorganization, um, there's incoherence externally, where like there must be a lot of chaos happening internally, right? So again, the internal and external, looking at the scale, and we are protective of it. When we see beauty, we want it and we become fiercely protective of it. We're one of the only ones that have this instinctual desire to protect beauty. Okay. And this is why we don't go when we see flowers, we don't go and stomp on them. We're like, wow, this is so beautiful. I love this. This is like, come, let me show everybody how beautiful this is. We want to share it, we protect it. So again, we are seeing here the scientific connection between how sound literally shapes matter. The science of somatics is all around how sound, frequency, vibration shapes matter. Okay, so again, you have, and this is the part of the masterclass where I'm wanting you to kind of think within yourself, if I have a sound box inside of me that is connected to this deep line of fascia that can connect and tickle our vagus nerve and tune us, why aren't we doing more with it? And why are we not potentially being more intentional playing with sound and fine-tuning frequency and getting into coherence. And this is your invitation. If you're not doing this in your practice, maybe start with yourself and then invite your clients. Some clients may find it to be super profound. We know in the Tao that they have the six healing sounds of the Tao, the different counterbalancing sounds or frequencies to offset a dysregulation and emotions. This is not new stuff. This is stuff that we've been talking about, we've been exploring as a species for quite some time. So, again, the invitation here is opening up your lens of perception. One, you have a capacity. You are, this is something I've been saying for so many years, you are your own singing bowl. For those of you that are into um, singing bowls and frequency medicine, and you have all the diaphragms, and your diaphragms can again hold different frequencies. So you can even hum and bring your hum all the way down into your pelvic floor if you want. You make that sound travel. The same way, if you had pain in a certain body part, you're not just humming here, you're sending the frequency to the pain. Who here has that awareness that when you hummed or made specific noises, when you were in pain, it was in direct relation, you were sending it to that location? Yeah, cool, very cool. All right, awesome. All right, so everyone here is familiar, I think, Professor Emoto's water crystal experiments around, the impact of music and emotional intentions and words, how they impacted water. So it was even the words and the emotional charge behind the word that was changing the frequency of water. Everyone here familiar with that? Um, what the HeartMath Institute has also shared with us through their research is that when a person's heart space, and again, your heart is a part of is one of your diaphragms in your deep front line. When the heart gets into space of coherence, it creates a vibrational coherence all around the entire body. The other systems in the body start to um, function in an optimized manner. Digestion improves, sleeps improves, thoughts and emotions improve, energy levels improve. So we're seeing that there's a positive impact that happens when parts of the deep front line enter spaces of coherence. Um, when the fascia is in a space where it's more coherent in its crystalline structure, it is able to send and receive information at a much better resonance and space than otherwise. So basically, it helps cellular communication, it helps the organs function in a better way, it helps the um, even the speed of rewriting the story for all of you that are practicing TVM, and you're getting your clients into that beautiful space of neuroplasticity, that you're feeling that electricity and buzzing, they and the liquidization of of their fascia, that they become they don't have a wall, right? It's because they're in a deep restructuring process. That process can speed up and they can integrate much faster once the fascia is in a deeper coherent state. It returns to a different baseline. So again, one of the ways that I'm wanting you to look at this when we're speaking about the deep front line and the implications of voice onto and sound into regulation is that you may notice this with your clients. Once your client starts to receive regular TVM, you may notice that their integration happens faster. So between sessions, they're integrating and they're processing at a much more rapid speed, and that their behavioral patterns and thought patterns start to change and start to become more coherent. You may notice even when you start to work on them with TVM that their body is responding at a much faster rate. It's like it may even start the process without you even getting your hands on the body. The body's like, I know what we're about to do. So there's this level that is happening of deeper coherence. Who here has experienced that with their clients? Yeah, so I have some heads nodding. Okay, so what is happening, not just that there's neuromarrying that is happening, that the body is communicating, but we're speaking now specifically from a quantum perspective that the fascia, the intelligence of the body, it has is picking up on the field. So it's picking up on what is about to happen before it even happens. And it's responding to it. And this is how all this trauma work, that like trauma's in the body, trauma's not in the mind, is because the body's coding information, processing information independently through its own memory banks and creating its own stories and its own conclusions. It has a relationship with the field independently from our unified eye or cognition or awareness of it. So what's happening when you set intention to work with your client and you know what's about to happen, and you haven't even done it yet, but the body's responding as if it already happened, you're starting to get a glimpse into how fast the body is communicating to the field and responding to the field faster than your actions even materializing. So you can understand this is a rapid upload and download of information just from your own practice, your own TVM practice. You can see this happening. You can see that there's this very intelligent communication, and it's making decisions and it's responding faster before the event even occurs. So if this is happening for healing and you have the awareness and you're seeing it happen, are we starting to also see the ramifications, the other side of this coin, and it's even faster if there's threat? So the response of the body, if there's threat, it's before it even occurred. It's broken it down, coded it, responded to it, and it's already in a response to it before the event even takes place. So now we're starting to understand how so much information can get stored in our body beyond our cognition, beyond our cognitive awareness. And this is why when it comes to trauma specifically, unresolved threats to our system, it is stored not necessarily in cognition. This is why talk therapy is supportive, but is not the key to resolving it. We need to speak to the other technologies that are storing the information because they're doing it independently. Okay, so we're also, and these are the systems, when we get them into coherence, the thoughts start to become more coherent. So we also know that emotions influence our electromagnetic field. So this is understanding that more that quantum layer right now. Our emotions influence the electromagnetic field. And we know this scientifically through EEG and EKG readings. Okay. Different emotional states change the electromagnetic field around us. And so when we start to understand from a quantum level that frequency equals information, and your emotion is not just a feeling, it is a field influencing, shaping instruction to the universe. And I really want this to land, everybody. This is for your own personal development and understanding that the frequency of your being, from your fascia, from your heart, because this is your heart, your electromagnetic field, very powerful. You have your nervous system, electricity impulses, running information. You're an amazing technology. When you start to understand that the information that is running through your body is running from a frequency perspective, because frequency equals information. So the stories, so look at it this way or another way, the stories that you have are the untruths or the incoherence or the lies or the trauma or the incomplete charges that are in your system literally create a frequency, an emotional frequency that emits itself as information into the field. So your emotion is instruction that influences and shapes the field around it. So when you think about yourself as a technology that is here, like a lot of people have this philosophical question: what's the point of life? Why are we even alive? And one of the theories is that we're here to experience life and to gather information. And every time we disintegrate or fold into the field, because this is what's happening, right? We're both this little drop of water and we are the ocean. So we are both things. And this is why, for instance, in different religions, they're like, God or the existence is your heavenly parent and you are its child. So you're like a mini god goddess walking around as an extension of the infinite. And your purpose as this technology is to experience life and gather information. And if you are from a quantum level sending information back into the field, your coherence, what you're emitting into the field, your through whatever is happening internally, your frequency or your vibration is giving instruction to the field. And then from that, the field is responding back to you. So you may notice for many of you here through your self-development process that it's as if you've lived multiple lifetimes in one life because your friends may have changed, your whole life may have collapsed on itself multiple times, your patterns may have changed. It's because the coherence within yourself changed, emitted new information into the field responded back to you. And this is where there's this action potential that happens the moment you change one of your patterns. You're changing the coherence of yourself, and you're expanding. I'm going to put this out here. This may be a little complex. This is the kind of thing we do more in the advanced, but I'm going to put it out here because I think it's important to understand. Um, or at least plant as a seed. Your deep front line holds on to a whole bunch of subconscious information. It influences your dominant circuitry. It influences your thoughts, your patterns, your behavior. Okay, it creates a field of coherence, and it's a lot of the subconscious, so it's generational stuff, things that you're not necessarily in awareness. And when you start to put together all of these pieces in this masterclass to understand that your pelvic floor, so your relationship to your pelvic floor, your relationship to your own sensuality, sexuality, how you feel safe in the world or not, how even go and use the bathroom, how you move, how you walk, how you sit, how you breathe, what you sound like, what words you use, influence your energetic signature, your emotional signature to the field. So it positions you. So if you think of the field as a big map, it's literally dropping a pin. You're that little drop pin on a map. This is where you were maybe a year ago. Your pin has changed. If your life has changed, your patterns have changed. Your pin or your address in the fabric of time space has changed. And therefore, the people around you have changed. And the places that you live in may have changed. And the things that you're thinking about have changed because your address in the field has changed. And within your deep front line, when you change a trauma or a story, and you rewrite that, recode that information from unsurvivable, unfavorable to I've survived. And then for those of you that have done your pelvic floor trainings and have gotten deeper into engaging that deep front line, we can go back in and rewrite the stories. We can put in favorable stories, newer information, more favorable information in there, even if they did not exist in our reality. Because, and this is the coolest thing, when you start to understand that this technology within our body is able to give us information that we've inherited from from our generational stuff, and or has coded information from the field, I can go into the field too. It's not just coding unfavorable things, it can code favorable things from the field too. This is where you start to understand Fred. This is maybe a different generational thing, but we used to have cassettes back in my day when I was little. We could put in a recorder and you could go and wipe it all up and record over it again. You're using the same technology to put in a different frequency. Literally, think about your fascia and your body is exactly the same thing, especially with this deep front line. Super cool. Super cool. This is the work we're doing, everybody. So your frequency then changes the field. Your address changes in the field, and then everything around you starts to change. So the way you feel about things change, the way you think about things change, your understanding of different things change. So basically your coherence or your internal vibrational signature changes. And then when you change, you become a stronger player in the field. So this is what we're starting to see also when we look at string theory and we're looking at all of these amazing theories in the quantum, that when you're uploading information and suddenly you're interacting with the field from a space of love and more coherence, you actually have stronger vibrational resonance in the field, i.e., you become a strong player. You can play differently. You're not coming in incoherent, not able to hear the signals, not able to respond correctly, not you're not playing from a space of empowerment. And this is why we see in research when individuals have unresolved trauma, it's not just one element of their life that is not successful, it has a spillover effect everywhere. We see that it's their finances, it's their business, it's their emotional lives, it's the decisions they make. They're more likely to have trouble with the law, they're more likely to this, that, and the other. Again, just understanding the connection between um, one element has an influence on everything. So you start to change one thing, you start to change everything as well. And you become stronger in the field. So again, we're here to empower everybody to understand from a quantum perspective. You want to have a strong address in the field. This is the most beautiful thing. The stronger your address in the field, the more light you are entangling within yourself here in density. Um, and then people can find you. And this is it's super cool. I know I've experienced it a lot, and I'm curious if anyone here has experienced it a lot, where you bump into somebody or someone comes across your work or what you're doing. They're like, I've been thinking and wanting this exact thing that you have for so long. I can't believe it's here. And you were saying exactly the same things that I've been looking for, or you have the solution to the problem I've been looking for. That starts to happen when you have a stronger resonance in the field. So you become a stronger player and it's fun. Then life becomes really, really fun. Like, hey, I've been looking for you, or I've been dreaming about you for years and here you are. And okay. All right. So we're gonna start wrapping this up, everybody. So we're starting to understand right now, right, that your voice shapes the field, your pelvic floor, very, very profound. It's your quantum creative computer. There's an entire I didn't spend a lot of time exploring the pelvic floor today because I'm going to invite you to watch. There's a intro to pelvic floor, TVM pelvic floor, that speaks around the power of the pelvic floor, and you can just watch that and like plug it into everything else. I really wanted to focus more on voice today and coherence and the quantum implications it has, um, and the way the influence of emotions, unresolved trauma, have on all these different elements within us, and going a little bit deeper into that deep front line. Um, Awesome question. So how can we use TVM to promote heart coherence? There are a lot of people who use the different rings, the aura rings and whatever, that work with meditation and things like that, and they're having way better or really profound results with TVM with regards to their heart um, variability and some of the results that we're seeing. And this is where I'm inviting you all to do your own research, please, and to keep sharing the findings that individuals are able to um, have they're no longer within what is quote unquote the normal um, optimized rates and ratios, and as the baselines are so different. So I actually believe that a lot of the baselines and reference baselines that we have with regards to regulation are are not necessarily aligned with true human potential. Like, I think it's coming from those reference charts are coming from spaces of using dysregulation as a baseline. So yeah. Anyone here want to share anything or ask a question as we're wrapping this up? Was this a good class? Are we starting to see it? Has it all come together into an understanding, a deeper understanding? Yeah. Are we going to be playing with sounding in our sessions? Cool.
Definitely. You open to verbal feedback?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. It was great. I've been writing a whole lot on my notebook, and I think I will extend it to like another double of what I've already just like pieced together. And I definitely have to listen to it like three more times to like get the things really in place because you've connected so many dots for us just now, which was yeah, yeah, incredible. Took a lot of new insight out of it. So very grateful for the session. Liked it very much. Thank you.
Awesome. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you everyone for showing up. I love doing master classes. Yeah, so just kind of adding as we're wrapping this up, just like maybe visualizing your voice as audible fascia. So if we know that fascia is frequency and it has and it responds to voice, can our voice be the audible fascia? It's our fascia communicating through sound. And then to play with that concept as well for your own self, for your own sake of like just like again, everybody, one of the biggest things I'm wanting to do here, and I think is very signature to the way I work and the way I think, is let's not be in the box. There's a reason I don't really pay too much attention to what other people are doing because I don't want to um, interrupt the curiosity that I have in my brain around what is possible. And so, can we view your voice as audible fascia? And fascia is your resonating memory bank. Another way of looking at it right now is the resonance is a memory bank. So anyhow, these are little nuggets that um okay. All right. So I want to say thank you everybody. And I look forward to another masterclass. Okay, thank you everyone for showing up. Kept it right on the hour mark. All right, angels. Sending you all so much love wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for the entanglement. Love you, love you, love you. Besos, besos. Bye, everybody.